So the first tip is always make sure you bring in the best gear that you have. Surviving is much more important than getting kills, because if you survive, even with the shittiest loot that you could find, it's still a positive outcome than if you were to die and not even gain a single penny. Second tip that I have for you is learn about points of interest, or POIs for short. These certain areas of the map are really important to go to because they'll have higher tier loot, but at the risk of higher tier battles, meaning that you'll probably be dying a lot of the time. So be precautious on what places of interest you're gonna go to, like police station on suburbs or even mall on suburbs. Those areas are hotspots for player action, so be very careful. The next tip I'm gonna give you is learn how bullet damage works and how armors work as well. I'll give you some TLDR here. If you use your Mika and look at bullets that you have in your hand, or if you go to the trader store and click on the bullets, you can see the specific stats of how much base damage they do, how much bullet penetration they can do, and the bullet blunt damage as well. The higher the bullet pen, the higher chance it's going to penetrate through higher tier armor. Blunt damage is what you'd expect it to do. If it doesn't penetrate, how much damage will it actually do to the armor that you shot at? And the base damage is what you think it would be, is if you shot a bullet at someone and how much damage they would do to their certain body parts of the character. Now the fourth tip is kind of mixture with the third tip, but weapons have firing power that can increase the damage percentage based on how good it is. So it goes from subpar to fair to good to superior. If you have subpar, you'll have negative 10% damage reduction while shooting the weapon at armor, but if you get superior, you'll have a 10% damage increase on the weapon. Tip number 5, if you sprint for a long period of time, which most of us do, you will actually lose more food and water than if you were to jog normally within the game. And there are 3 different types of movement speed within this game: walking, jogging, and full-on sprinting. Now this is getting more into the solo experience with this tip right here, and that's you don't always need to shoot at a player. Sometimes it's easier for you to let some enemies go if you see them wandering around and looting, especially if you're outgunned or outclassed based on armor, weapons, and also based on health as well. It's better for you to let your enemies bypass and not get into the fight and get the scraps versus you dying to the enemies and you get nothing. Tip number 7. Everyone knows that there's a leaning mechanic in the game, but did you know you only need to tilt your head slightly to the left or right for it to fully work in that direction? Tip number 8 is there are different variations of scavs that also vary on difficulty. For example, if you go to the farmlands on suburbs, you'll see scavs with little to no armor and really bad weapons. But on police station, you'll have scavs with vests and even a helmet on for better protection for themselves and also better weapons and overall gear. Tip number 9, your hideout will always need junk, no matter what. If you see some pliers, if you see some wires, or if you see some CPUs, keep them. You'll need them to upgrade your hideout some way, shape, or form. Every junk item in the game has some purpose in the hideout, so keep saving them up. It'll be very beneficial for you to upgrade your hideout as well, because it'll improve on your health, improve on storage, and also improve on a lot of other aspects within the game. Tip number 10, always try to level up your traders. It doesn't matter who you want to level up, but some people will try to go for Ark and Igor or even Boulder for the weapons and items and armor to protect themselves with, but every trader actually has some importance, and not to mention every single one of them will actually benefit in giving you stuff in return and not just money or XP. They'll actually give you items in return so that you're able to use those items in future raids. Tip number 11, for quick games, always make sure you have a loadout ready to go on your racks in the hideout. I usually set up my loadouts before I end my session on the game so that when I do come back to play, I have something ready to go without any issues. Tip number 12, when upgrading your intel room to level 1, your Mika will actually showcase how much a certain item will cost when hovering over it. Tip number 13, minifigures will have static spawns every time. This means you can set up a route depending on what map you're going to and try to get around 2 to 4 minifigures every raid, which can sell for 20k a pop. So if you get the bare minimum of 2, you can still earn 50k total just by doing a simple route. If you want to know where these spawn, there is a Exfilzone wiki that is getting updated every so often, so check that regularly to find out where those minifigures spawn at. Tip number 14, if you see a dead scav around, it is likely that players will still be nearby. Stay on your guard and make sure you take it slowly. Tip number 15, audio cues are important, so if you hear running or footsteps nearby, enemies are going to be really close to you. With tip number 16, when you use attachments with weapons, you can actually see what attachments do for the stats on the weapon. Tip number 17, ergonomics is how much you can control a weapon while ADSing and moving. The higher the ergonomics, the easier it is to control it while walking around, while the lower it is, the harder it is to control the bobbing of the weapon. Tip number 18, certain scopes can be zoomed in and out by holding trigger on the wheel and turning it left or right. Some scopes may not do this while others do, and this is something for you to experiment on. Tip number 19, you could put certain pouches on the sides of bags, allowing for more space and organization if needed for food, water, or even ammo supplies. And tip number 20, each pouch and mag holder can be used differently, not just for the label they have. Grenade pouches, for example, can hold up to 45 bullets in its pouch, while large mag pouches are good for holding up 2 smaller pouches on top of each other for medical supplies or injectors. The double mag pouch can also hold up 160 round mag of either 5.56 or 7.62 by 39. And most armors and vests allow you to put up those mag holders and or items up higher on the chest rig instead of down below. And my final tip to you all is, if you want to find more people to play with and not just play solo, you can hop onto my Discord to say what's up. We don't just play video games, but we also talk about random stuff like anime, video games, sports, health and fitness, and everything else in between. And that is everything for tips that I have for you today. Let me know in the comments down below if I missed out on a tip that people don't know about, or let me know in the comments down below what would you like to see next on the channel. But that's it for me. Deuces. Take care, everyone.